What is up, everybody? Welcome into the post-game show for your Eagles-Seahawks game. I'm Big Al along Matty B here for a disappointing letdown, just soggy loss for the Eagles. The as the world turns, drama continues in South Philadelphia. Well, this time it's in Seattle, but the rabbit hole keeps getting deeper. Matty B with these Philadelphia Eagles. Just let's kind of break. Let's talk about everything has kind of rolled out. We're going to talk about this game, but how it's transpired. As we know, going into the game, they made some strange defensive changes with Desai and Matt Patricia. A lot of young guys getting chances to start tonight. And then the Jalen Hurts being really sick situation came into it. But now we are looking at a 2017 loss for the Eagles, 3 in a row. They are 10-4. I mean, by the record, they look very much alive, but by the looks of this team and on the field, not so much. Matty B, what do you got for me, bro? Here we go.
That's what I got for you, bro. All right, so let's dissect this a little bit. You mentioned the off the field stuff with the Matt Patricia thing. First of all, I find it a mockery that the pregame show on this network would not even broach the topic of why maybe the behind the scenes stuff about why that move was made. It was your fraud of a GM panicking and undercutting the puppet of a head coach, and then obviously doing what he did. Listen, Al, it's a dumpster fire wrapped around an enigma in a runaway car right now, and let this sink in. And I said this to you off air. You lost to Drew Lock. Drew Lock beat you. Not only did he beat you, but he had a late game comeback win. Drew Lock. Let that sink deep in, Eagles Nation.
On Bradbury again, might I add.
On Bradbury. So that sign I held up, you're damn right. Hashtag fire Howie right now. Take your puppet head coach with you. We need to burn this thing down and start over. That's what I
got. All right, let's hit some of these up. I'm going to go back over some of the ones I've been flashing up on this screen here. Let's start with Dibes here. The Eagles are soft. Hurts making bonehead mistake after bonehead mistake. Pathetic loss. And that's kind of been it. Like, it's like we talk about the defensive coordinator. We talk about the offensive play calling. I went off on a Wednesday about the offensive play calling being I didn't even call it vanilla. It's like plain yogurt. There's nothing to it. Gelatin, not Jello. There is nothing to it. They look like they tried to do some stuff. They threw a couple motions in there to really throw the defense off. In the beginning, in some parts, some of these young guys stepped up. Kylie Ringo, however you say his name, looking like, okay, he can hang, keeping DK Metcalf quiet up until later in the game. And it's like we fell back into the same dumb mistakes. Like, why can't we stick with the game plan? The running game was working for them. The balance was there. They were throwing over the middle too, Matty B. Some things that we've been pounding our chest about. So I know the play calling is part of it, but this team is in their own heads. You know what I mean? Like,
are they though, Al, or is this who they really are? And I've been hearing that a lot lately. Jalen Hurts being the number one suspect of that, of being in his own head. Is he really though? Or is this what Jalen Hurts is? I mean, are the Eagles really in their own heads, or are we inside of our own heads? I mean, what's the real story here? Because you can mask a ass whooping by the 49ers and the Cowboys. How are you going to justify this? The Seahawks are 6-7, and Drew Lock was their quarterback. Have I mentioned Drew Lock was their quarterback? And next week they're going up against Danny DeVito or Tommy DeVito or Robert De Niro. I don't know who the kid's name is, but you know what? You got to think of it. Is there anybody out there who thinks that the Eagles might not lose out? Because that has got to be a possibility at this point. Al,
listen, I'll be honest with you. Going into this game, I wasn't looking past this one. I actually asked somebody. I think I asked during the pregame show with Dibes, Mitch, and Ryan. I asked them simply, like, guys, like, is there anything that you could look at and say, oh, that's an easy team right now? The way this team's playing, the way this team is just not, like, their heart's not there, and it's like they rip it out of their own chest, like. Okay, fine. The Niners are a very good team, probably the best team in the NFL right now. We'll probably find out Monday when they play the Ravens. Okay, fine. The Cowboys in Dallas seem to have piss and vinegar running through their veins when they're in Dallas. Take them outside of Dallas, completely different team. But all right, now you get to the Seahawks, a very beatable team. Yes, the records are like we're like 0-7 with Pete Carroll at the helm of Seattle. All the way back, the last time we won was when the Phillies won in 08. But it's just this team can't get out of its own way. So, yeah, there is areas of this team is flawed big time. But let's go just rewind back the last 3 weeks. If you were to take all these bonehead mistakes, all these turnovers out of the game, these games are a lot closer than they were, and or they probably win tonight's game if it wasn't for bonehead mistakes. There was no reason to throw in that coverage just right there. Now, listen, Love made it a hell of a grab.
Yeah,
Give him
that's
credit
beautiful
where,
catch.
where
Beautiful.
credit's due.
But what was
But
the reason for going for a home run on that play? All they needed was 10, 15 yards for a setup for a game-tying field
that's
goal.
that's my point. Like, were they trying to catch him off guard? Was it like, is this that all or not? I think Joe Sheeran said to the other week, he said, big balls are fun until they keep biting you in the ass.
Yeah.
We talk about Doug Peterson, going for it all the time. They go for it on, fourth down if it's 4th and 2 or less. The tush push and all that stuff. But other than that, they can't get out of their own way, and they make. It's the play calling. Was that Jalen Hurts going? No, I'm going to go downfield. I'm going to go to my guy again. And it's kind of funny because we always say you got to go to your guy, but the distribution part when it comes down to crunch time. I'm a defensive coordinator for another team. I'm not worried about anybody with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Nobody else is in it now. Let's go to a couple of the things here that people are saying. Like Chris is saying, Quez Watkins is the new Rieger.
What was Quez Watkins doing in the game? Was there a reason he's in the game?
I don't know. They're trying to. I don't know. Maybe just trying to use his speed, but the ball was underthrown. And listen, I'm not blaming the refs for this loss, but that should have not been an interception. That one should have not happened. That was a total blatant missed call. But whatever. They should have been way ahead of the game. So again, not blaming the refs for the game, Matty B. I'm just saying that should have never happened.
The refs did not have a good game tonight. They were the game flow. They messed up the game flow. They were a mess tonight. They really were.
Chris is saying Hurts has regressed.
Yeah, I think he has, and that's a legitimate statement right now. It's not. Al, there's something to that because you can blame Brian Johnson in the play calling all you want, but it's the same people from last year. It's the same group. Now, have teams gotten better? Have they schemed? Are they scheming against Hurts? I mean, I don't know, but there's something not right. There's something not right. It hasn't been there all season. It's not like over the last 3 games it has manifested. It has been like this all season long. We just didn't want to admit to it until now. So there's got to be something to it, man.
Listen, Bill, I'm not saying they're a great team at all. I'm not. They don't just suck, but they like. It's one thing to suck. It's one thing not to have talent or not to have abilities. It's another thing when you completely continue screw yourself over.
Yeah.
Like, we have to take this into consideration. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pound my chest. They're a great team. They're just beating themselves. No, I'm not saying that at all. But they are really, 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 really hampering themselves every game, turnover after turnover, and just dumb decisions like that. I don't know. Is that a Brian Johnson call, or was that Jalen? I'm throwing it to because AJ, I know he's going to streak. He's not my number 1 look here. He's my number 2, maybe number 3. But I'm going to throw because I want to throw it there.
That play at the end of the game, that play at the end of the game should not have happened. There was no need to be going for that type of chunk of yardage at that situation. What, you had 2 timeouts, 2 remaining? I mean, they had everything working for them. That was a beautiful run that Jalen had to play before to get them in that position. And then why would you go for the home run ball? I don't understand. Was it like watching Game 7 of the NLCS all over again tonight, Al? Was that kind of what you were looking at too?
That's a great point. Yes, that's what that felt like. Like all or nothing. We're only going to swing for the fences. If we get our home runs, which we can get, and they know they can get, we'll be happy. And listen, granted, that's one AJ Brown catch away from being a great call. We're having a completely different post-game show, but it's not how it works. And rewind 4 weeks ago between, this team had that magic where, they could thread that needle. But that magic is gone, and they relied on that magic way too much. That magical tree is dead. Whatever little elf or magical creature granted to them, He's long gone, and they are not looking back at us.
No, they're not.
I get Lee Brian Johnson in Seattle. Again, and then this is just that one play call, that last play call. Was that Brian Johnson or was that Jalen? Because I have a feeling that was more Jalen than Brian Johnson. But
Brian
I'm not
Johnson's
saying it wasn't.
not playing quarterback for this team. Brian Johnson's, Jalen Hurts is the one who's got to right? Regardless of what the situation is, or make the decision, you know what, I'm not throwing it deep because he's in double coverage and I'm not going to try to thread that needle. So listen, you can blame the play calling all you want. And Sean Desai, I kind of agree with that whole situation there. But you can blame play calling up to a certain point. And at the end of the day, it's the players who execute. And right now, hey, Philadelphia, guess what? Your players aren't good enough. That's just the bottom line. Either if it's this just for this year or if it's long term, they're just not good enough. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I understand that. But it's okay. Once you come to the light and accept it, I'll be here for you with open arms, man. I promise you that. Because once you do, you're going to free yourself. You're going to feel great. I promise.
That I doubt. This team not being good or not, like, listen, I'm telling you, I'm not disagreeing with you, Matty B. This team is not good right now. And I would love to know what game Brad watched. 28-7 win Eagles. Did he put a DVD in or something? Like, I don't know what game he watched, but
we watched the wrong one. He watched the right one.
Maybe I'm watching an old Seattle Eagles game and Jalen Hurts, they stubbed his face in. Brad, whatever you're smoking, share it with the rest of us, guys. But guys, I remind you that, listen, plenty of Philly sports going on, some good in the city, some not so good as we see right now. And if you want to go and travel like the best, travel with all the great fans, we go to phillysportstrips.com. You can still get on the Giants trip if you want to go to that Eagles-Giants game. You're like, man, you're a little over the Eagles. You know what? Check out the Stadium Series up in MetLife. Another reason to go watch a Philly team who's playing well right now. Or if you want to, hey, I want some baseball. I want some warm weather. I want some Florida, Clearwater Beach. Spring training options are also available there. And now for you Sixers fans right now, Los Angeles takeover in March as well. Great idea for those last-minute Christmas presents, everybody. Check them out. Go to phillysportstrips.com. I'm back with Matty B. For those who are just joining us, 20-17 loss. The Eagles now have lost 3 games in a row.
Now, Al, I know you weren't around for the 94 season, and I know a lot of people that...
I was around, but I was...
well, you weren't around. You didn't endure...
I was 11.
was losing 7 games in a row really, really meant. And I'm not saying that's what we're on our way, but I don't want to go back through that again. I don't want to go through 7-game losing streak to end the season. And right now, obviously, when you kind of look at that, there's a chance that might actually occur. And I'm telling you, you think you feel low now? Well, wait, it gets lower. And I don't want that to happen at all. But I don't see a way out right now. The Giants aren't the way out. I don't even trust them against the damn Cardinals. Honestly, I don't.
Listen, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Say they come and win. They win the next 3 games and they win the division, say.
Yep.
Fine. But that doesn't mean anything to me right now.
No.
That doesn't mean anything to me right now because we win the division. You beat 2 teams. You win 3 games by beating two bad teams. That's not, sometimes they can help you get right, but it's not just about getting right. Like I said, this team is in their head, man. There is something that's not right. It's not a devoid of talent. Jalen Hurts is talented. A.J. Brown's talented. Devontae Smith's talented. Most of our O-line is very talented. Dallas Goedert, very talented. So it's not a devoid, like, all right, we got, not so great tight ends. And our wide receiver core is kind of mediocre. No, it's, on the defense, we could talk about that a lot. But, the guy we paid big money for, and I was the first one excited that they were bringing him back was Bradbury. And every time we seem to be, down and out, he seems to be at the scene of the crime, holding the smoking gun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just...
Was it 2 pass interference penalties on Metcalf tonight?
2 pass interference. I mean, Metcalf, for the most part, was kept...
Until the end.
Kept until the end, until they need him. It's like they fall back into, some bad routines. Like, they Drew Lock and Seattle got that ball out a lot quicker. You saw them moving it down the field faster, kind of taking the pace of the game away from the Eagles and more in their control. Smart move. That's what you do. But it's, again... did you see anything outside of from Sean Desai versus now Matt Patricia that really wowed you to think that,
no.
Let's be honest. If we had the great Bill Belichick come down from New England and finish out the season playing defense, is it going to make a difference?
So
that's where we're devoid of talent.
What Sidney Brown plays for this team? Is it the guy we drafted back in 07? Because that's the one looking like that's who looks like out there on the field playing defense for the Eagles right now. That guy is woo, man, that guy's bad. He is bad.
I don't know. Like, my thing with Sidney Brown is I think he has his moments. I think he's like an all or nothing kind of guy. He's like one of those guys that he's going to go for the big swing, but if he misses, it's noticeable. Like it's
Well,
big.
he was
It's bad.
noticeable tonight.
Yeah. Like
Another question I have for you, Al. Another question I have, real quick. We saw what DK Metcalf did at the end of the game, and I know it's a question that we used to ask this all the time, and we stopped asking it. But would you rather have Metcalf and Justin Jefferson versus AJ Brown and Devontae Smith?
Wait, you say Metcalf?
So instead of having Devontae and AJ, right,
Uh-huh.
we have Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. Would you rather take them two over the two we have?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
No offense against Devontae Smith or anything, but Justin Jefferson, out of those four you just mentioned, Justin Jefferson is probably the most complete wide receiver
so
in
we
the
can
NFL.
stop talking about that debate that how he didn't really royally mess that all up. We can stop. Obviously, the better wide receivers don't play for us right now, right?
Listen, when Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are cooking on all cylinders and Jalen Hurts isn't making dumb mistakes, yeah, top tier like combination. Alone individually, they're not the best of the best, but they're top. Like, if you're putting the top 5 wide receivers, I'm just trying to think right now. Top 10. They both, at least one of them makes the top 10 at the very least. I'm just trying to think in my head real quick. I mean, AJ Brown's in the top 10 discussion, and Devontae Smith could be as well. Bottom back, but still, I mean, like I said, they are a dynamic duo. But again, they're making as many mistakes, not as much in this game as they did last game, but they're fumbling the balls, not catching balls that they should catch. And it's just, again, this team is dysfunctional. It's not just this team is bad. Like outside of whatever you think about, Howie Roseman getting this guy or that guy, just the offense in the bubble alone, they're very, like, on paper, individually very good players in their positions. So is that the offensive coordinator's fault? Is that just this? Is there something internally going on that we can't? They're not on the same page. Like, has Nick Sirianni lost the locker room or something? Like, what is it? Because the only thing that I only have more question marks now after the Sean Desai move, because was this just for this week? He still has technically still is the defensive coordinator. He just wasn't the defensive coordinator in this game. He was put up top, maybe like where they just let's see if you get a better view from up there and you can make better decisions. But we're gonna let this guy make the call. So that's obviously not it. Because my eyes is if this is what it's gonna be, there's no way. I mean, the guy's got a 4-year contract, but it's like not a lot. But there's no way you can bring this guy back to be defensive coordinator next year if you're gonna replace him at this point. Like,
you can't bring him back next week. I mean,
well, you know what I mean. I'm just saying in general. Like, that move seemed pretty finite in my eyes for what they're doing, but raises more questions in my eyes of is this internally, this team, is there something else more to the picture here? Is there something else we're not seeing because we're not in the locker room?
Now, there's obviously leadership questions now about this team, and not just the stuff that's been over the last couple of weeks and the whole Darius Slay thing. He's not man enough to. First of all, the knee procedure. Again, I'm sorry, Al, that I got to go back to this, but your pregame show refused to address this on their show. They refused to address this topic. They shoot it away. But there's some issues there. When you're one of your highest paid players on your team, a defensive captain as well, decides to get knee surgery right when Matt Patricia, who he does not like, is installed.
The timing on that is definitely suspect. At the very least, suspect. Like, was that because of the Matt Patricia thing? I mean, the time, or was that the right time for the Eagles to do it, not to upset him? Like, I don't know which way it goes, but yeah, I listen. I agree with that. That was one of the first things that popped in my head, to be honest with you, Maddie. That it's just way too convenient for my flavor right now.
And nothing was reported. I remember me and Kyle, we did our show this week, and I remember seeing Slay on the injury report. He popped up as questionable, but there was no comment, no reason next to it. And then all this stuff breaks a couple of days later. So then we got the problems with Slay on his podcast, and then you got the problems with AJ Brown walking off the field, leaving DeAndre Swift hurt on the field, and then you got the problems of the fighting on the sideline. Then you got the leak in the locker room. Al, there's some issues that, as you mentioned, inside that locker room that we're not privy to see, and they're real issues. This team is
Well,
not together. This team is fractured.
The one that you mentioned, like a couple of the ones from earlier, like the AJ Brown arguing with Jalen Hurts, like
Yeah,
by
that's like way
themselves,
long ago.
yeah, but I'm just saying, like by themselves, those moments are just little breadcrumbs that, yeah, the tempers flare, things like that. But yeah, and then when you get to this point and these moves are being made and things are just not jiving on the field now, because those things start to bleed into your play. Yeah, you have to wonder. Let's hit some of these questions. Angry Ants out here. The defense played pretty good. The problem is that the first series, the Eagles offense just fold. Who the hell throws along to Quez Watkins? Everyone knows AJ Brown's going to get double teamed. Again, I'm not worried about throwing to Quez Watkins, but at the same time, Quez Watkins didn't even try for to break up the pass. Like he didn't try to be a defender. That's where I go with it. Like if you see that you're out of this is coming up short, you need to defend a guy. You know what I mean? Like defend the ball. Like you have to turn into a defender like that. Like you have to make it hard for the other guy to pick up. Like he just kind of now again, granted, he did pull. He kind of fell forward a little bit. It was a missed call, so maybe part of that plays into it. But yeah, and a couple of things that still reared their ugly head. They came out hot. They had a good start. They kind of lull them. They lull themselves into this weird situation. Not the defense or the offense of the other team. They lull themselves into this weird. Okay, we're good. We can go back to our bad habits now. It's okay now. We got a touchdown or 10 points up on the board. We can go do something. We go back to our stupid stuff again. We can play this loosey goosey football. And the thing is like. I said this earlier to somebody. I said that if you watch the Dallas and the Bills game the other night, we were all excited. Yeah, Dallas lost, and whatever you want to say, fraudulent team or whatever. But the Bills pretty much said there's a team that struggled more than us this year, who needed a get right game more than anybody, and they got that with Dallas. And what did they do? They ran the ball down their throat. They didn't make really long, obscene passes and double coverage when it wasn't necessary. They controlled the flow of the game, and that's what it looked like they were doing. And then Matty B, can you please explain to me why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, first of all, that first drive, that was the drive I've been waiting for all season. Come off, opening drive. It was flawless. They converted some third downs and they got in the end zone. I've been waiting for that for 15 weeks, and they finally put one together on the opening drive. Other than the answer to the other part of your question, Al, or your question, I don't know. I don't know, because even though they were winning, you didn't feel really comfortable, did you? Did you really feel confident that they were there? It is the same feeling I've had all season with this team. Yeah, they're winning, but it's just back and forth sloppiness. They make a few good plays and they make a couple bad plays. They do some bizarre play calling sequences, and then they're punting, and then all that. You just didn't feel that way. And you're right. I don't know what happens in game where they get bogged down and they start tripping over each other. And listen, the Quez Watkins interception was bad, but it's Seattle. Should that game have really hung in the balance on that play? I mean,
that's why I'm saying I'm not putting all of it on that.
That's what I'm saying, and it was a deep ball. It worked like a punt. It wasn't, and they got the ball right back too. So I get the frustration there, but it's Seattle. There's more going on than the Quez Watkins interception that you should be more concerned about here, in my opinion.
Jeff saying first interception was bad with under 8 minutes when they could have just ran the ball. I'm done. I think a lot of people are feeling that way. It was a bad call tonight when the Dead Hawks were grabbing Watkins' shirt and should have called the holding. Again, Brad, I agree with you, but at the same time, and I agree with Matty B in some way, yeah, this should not have come down to this moment. Again, let's ask the question as we get down, further into these comments. Should have Hurts played tonight? Knowing for how sick he was, I mean, you could I can't say he looked sick, because a lot of these faces we saw, especially at the end of this game, we've seen over the last few weeks. And I think somebody said Hurts has, Chris is saying it. Hurts has lost his confidence. That's definitely a point there. He's either lost his confidence or he's just too confident. Maybe, or something, or not just expecting people like AJ Brown to make plays in double coverage or something like that. But should have, if he was as sick as they say he was, should he play? I mean, Hurts his stats aren't overwhelming. 17 for 29, 143 yards with that one interception. No passing TDs, but of course the rushing TD with the tush push. But other than that, like nothing overwhelming you're going to see tonight. I mean, Drew Lock, he was 22 for 33 with 208 yards and the TD. Of course, that sealed the game for the Seahawks. DeAndre Swift, 18 carries, 74 yards, 4.1 yards. I mean, again, 18 carries is not a lot. It's not little either, but could have been more. Should have been more. Should have been spread out a little bit. And can people stop asking for Rashad Penny? He ain't playing for us, guys. He might be on the team. He might be able to get a jersey. He ain't playing for us. I'm tired of hearing about that. Saw little Kenny Gainwell tonight, 6 carries, 21 yards. Dallas Goedert had that 1 carry for a yard, didn't get anything really out of it. And Jalen Hurts starts the game off with a run play. Was that designed or was that Jalen?
Yeah, that was designed, straight designed to get some confidence.
So your guy's fighting some flu-like virus.
That was designed.
You had to fly separately. He's probably had more IVs in the last week than he's had a lifetime. So the first thing you think is that you'd be catching him off guard. Like, what about this dude takes one of the chops?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I don't know.
So you mentioned, should Jalen Hurts have played because he was sick? Well, you know what? Geno Smith didn't play, and Seattle's season was hanging on the line, and they went to their backup. So, I don't know there. And again, we go back to coaching here. What is going on over there? What is Nick Sirianni? What is Nick Sirianni? I put him in the same boat with his puppet master. They both got to go, in my opinion. And it's going to be interesting. And I hate to take this stance here, but if this thing does flame out and they're one and done out of the playoffs, do we call for someone's head? Is someone's head going to roll? Is somebody on the chopping block? God, hopefully, please God, is there at least 2 people on the chopping block? That old man.
I think one guy's he's living on the chopping block is Sean Desai.
No, I'm talking. You know who I'm talking about.
No. I'll tell you right now. And Maddie, I love you to death, but that's not going to happen. Howie Roseman will not be fired for after going to the Super Bowl last year. That bought him at least another couple of years of goodwill. Nick Sirianni's not going to get fired. Again, 3 years head coaching each year. He's going to the playoffs. I mean, like it or not, he's going to the playoffs. I mean, what happens in the playoffs or whatever.
What does that trophy look like? What is the playoff trophy? Does that hang next to the Lombardi trophy down there?
I'm not telling you that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but if you're thinking from a GM standpoint or an owner standpoint, they are not going to fire a coach who went to the playoffs 3 times in a row in his first 3 years. But do they do kind of what they did to Doug and kind of take control of who they hire or something like that?
That's what they've done they've already done that. That's what Sirianni's doing here in the first place. They already did that. So listen,
I don't know.
Eventually the Eagles are going to come home to roost, and Howie Roseman's going to have to stand accountable for all this. Eventually, one of these days. And that day was a day that I cannot wait for. I honestly can't.
Anthony saying the running back screens are there. Quick slants 2 times. The wide receiver screens would have worked. The screens, they're just not getting them off, man. I disagree with the screen.
Too slow to develop. They're too slow.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, this team just looks sluggish. Before it was like, okay, were they tired from this gauntlet and playing all these hard fought teams and real back close game, close together. Okay, I can understand a little fatigue at one point, but at this point, like, there's everything's sluggish. Like, I feel like when I'm watching an Eagles game versus any other game, we're like a tick slower than everybody else. Like, it's just not developing. Things don't develop right. I mean, that was one of the things that Jalen was having problems with throughout the years. Just his plays were not developed. The RPO's kind of gone a wayside because he's not running. He's not going to run, so it's just a pass option now. You know what I mean? And we don't know. It's just I don't get it, and it's the thing is Matty B, I see what you're saying a little bit to understand that this team isn't that good, but the team has a lot of talent. This team is a team that went to the Super Bowl last year,
and lost,
but still went to the Super Bowl.
What does that trophy look like? What does the go to the Super? Is
I'm
it the
not
conference
talking about
championship
trophies.
trophy?
You can't tell me a team that went to the Super Bowl last year is an altogether bad team. They are just playing very bad right now.
Al, when they were
And
10 and 1, when they were
Yeah.
10 and 1, how did you really feel about that 10 and 1? How did you really feel about it? Were you feeling pumping your chest out? This is the team of destiny, 10 and 1. They are dominant. They're going to the Super Bowl. Did you, or did you feel like, goddamn, how do we 10 and 1? How the hell are we 10 and 1 right now, based on how we played? Honestly,
listen, I felt this team, it was a good team with having some puck luck, might I add. That's a little hockey reference in there at times. But I did feel that this team was a very good team who could make some noise in the playoffs and very much represent the NFC in the Super Bowl at 10 and 1. You know, now, no, I don't know. I just, like you said, I don't feel comfortable in playing the Giants or the Cardinals at this point because they are just not a good team right now. Let's hit some more of these comments.
So, hey, the gauntlet's over now.
Yeah.
Tonight was the 6th game. They were 3 and 3. Was the gauntlet a successful run in your opinion?
No, because you lost all 3 to NFC teams.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the problem. Like we talked about this, like being 3 and 3 would have been okay, but it was being 3 and 3, like with a mixture of like 2 AFC teams and 1 NFC team or something along those lines. Because actually, when we were looking at the gauntlet to begin with, I kind of had a loss here in Seattle if they were able to. If I said if they won either against Dallas or the Niners, they were going to lose in Seattle. It was just the way things would play out for them.
Yeah.
You know, I just would have thought this team would have came out with a bigger chip on their shoulder. I mean, like they were flashing the cameras right before me and you went live. And of course, you see the bum faces. Don't get me wrong. You always expect that after a loss. But like even guys like Jason Kelsey, he just like almost like in the back of his head, I could read his mind like I should have retired. like those are the kind of like reads we're getting from this team that, you know, it's normal for the fans to react like we're reading through. And we're going to go through some more of these. I'm done with these guys. They suck. They're no good. Blah blah blah. The team is not normal, but that's what this team is acting like. That's the problem. That's what I'm really seeing here. I don't expect the defense to be top 5, top 10, maybe in the middle somewhere would be nice. 15. If the offense plays at its abilities, you can get past that. But there is a major mental block here that this team has. And sometimes these mental blocks can last a couple games, and then you can go to a place like Seattle against a struggling team, beat them. Even if they won tonight, like not handily, just won tonight, that could be enough to get the kind of the juices flowing. Remember, this is what it feels like to win. But when you keep getting sacked, loss after loss, like look at the Niners had the same problem. They lost 3 games in a row, you know, but they were able to turn it back around. I don't know if this team can turn enough back around. Like I said, they can go out and they can beat the Giants twice and the Cardinals. But when it comes to the playoffs, I still don't know where they're at. There would have to be some major turnaround in their heads at this point for me to feel any comfort in the playoffs.
I mean, the turnaround in their heads is probably big, but let's again. I hate this. I hate to be this like the yang to your yin here, but they're just not talented enough, and that's the bottom line. And maybe the NFL.
When you say they, is it the whole team, or you mean like the defense, or certain? Like, give me a little bit more. They.
Right. Okay. So I was never sold on the defensive plan heading into the season, and that's very well documented. That I didn't think they were talented enough to start the season, especially in linebacker and safety and cornerback. That was a total mess heading into the season. So that was the problem there. Their front four is really good, and they got a good one going forward for the rest of for the near future. But there's nothing in the second level. Nothing back there. So that was going to be a problem, and everybody talked about that. Everybody said the same thing. Oh yeah, the defense is going to suffer, but it's that offense, man. We're going to score 40 points a game, and we're going to have to at this point to make up for the defense. But then the offense comes out, and since week 1, game 1, Mac Jones, since that game, it's not been right. It came off wrong then, and it's gotten kind of not better since, and they've taken steps backwards at times. But they've never gotten past where they were on week 1 when they played the Patriots, in my opinion. And that there's something to that. Is it schemed against? Because these were all the returning offense. I mean, there wasn't many replacement. We had an upgrade at running back, in my opinion, and we still came out and we were just not right from the beginning. It's not like this has happened over the last 3 weeks. This happened back in week 1, but they found the ways to win. They were playing really bad teams. Is it scheme? Is it play calling? Or is it regression of talent? Or is it lack of talent? Or is it all the above, Al? It could be a mix of all of them, but it's something. It's not just it just happened, because it's been happening every week all season long.
Listen, scheme definitely. Talent in certain areas, I agree with. Going into the season, nobody felt comfortable about the linebacker situation. I don't know. You tell me one person who did. I don't even know if Zach Cunningham's mom felt comfortable about the linebacker situation. The safety situation was a big question mark. And once Avonte Maddox went down again, then that's secondary, and we were again like. They assumed that this high-powered offense would continue, but I left this message here from Chris up on the screen. It says Hurts' knee injury could be serious.
Yeah,
it could be, and I wonder now: is this season like not that he's one-dimensional, but he's had many dimensions, and one of the big dimensions that ability to take off and run. But you see it now. Like there was a time he could have had a first down, but he kind of just barreled through these guys, but he chose not to. He chose to go down, which. Fine, it's probably smart, especially a little bit with the way these guys have been having fumbling issues and things along that line. But if you take away his legs, is Jalen Hurts not as good as we would hope he would be? And the answer is yes, obviously.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I would love to run some 2021 film with 2023 Jalen Hurts back, side by side, and just see if there's trends or tendencies that he's back to. There was a lot of stuff in that year where he did not go through his progressions at all. He was a one and done, cat and check down, and then he was off and running. I'm not saying he's doing that, but at times he is doing that. He is holding on to that ball. He's holding on the ball a lot longer these days. And then there's other plays where he's duck and run. So maybe the coaching is screwing him up. I don't know, but
listen,
God, I miss Shane Steichen. I cannot believe I said that. I miss Shane Steichen.
I mean, Shane Steichen's his resume is there if you look at it. I mean, Justin Herbert has not been the same since Shane Steichen stopped working with him.
No,
Jalen Hurts has not been the same since Shane Steichen stopped working with him. Gardner Minshew's lighting the world on fire because of Shane Steichen. I mean, like the guy's a really good offensive coordinator and / head coach apparently now.
He's really good.
Yeah, and was the defensive front a bit much better last year than this year, and to disguise some of the problems we had in the secondary, or is the secondary even worse than it was last year and the defensive front not as good as we would hope?
Well, bringing back Cox and Graham was a huge gamble, just like bringing back Slay and Bradbury was a huge gamble for one more year. They were huge gambles, and I'm not laying this at Cox and Graham's feet. Jalen Carter was a comparable replacement to Hargrave. He's going to be an all pro. This kid's the real deal, man. When he came busting through there, and I thought he was going to take Drew Lock's head off. Man, he hit him so damn hard in that sack where he just left the guard in the dust. But maybe there was some, I don't know, more continuity on that front four last year. Maybe there's too much of a mix of young and old on that line right now that they can't get together because there's two different levels of playing ability there or playing knowledge, not necessarily ability. But you're right. There's not much penetration. There's no pressure.
We're the kings of the almost sacks.
Exactly. And they finally got a third down sack.
I tweeted out right away. I'm like, "Ooh, third down sacks. They do exist." Like
I mean, it was amazing.
Like M&M's commercial. They do exist. Like it's. I'm trying to laugh about it, Matty B, a little bit. I gotta find something in this. But one thing you can find, like I told you guys, we are 1 week away from Christmas. The Eagles will play on Christmas. But if you're like, I need to shop still, and I can't get out, Al, and I go to sherrystickets.com. You don't have to leave the comfort of your home. You can pull up your phone, go to sherrystickets.com, find tickets for what you need. Amazing prices, no hidden fees, and save an additional 10% off using that great promo code EOP10. That's right. The promo code EOP10 will save you 10% off at sherrystickets.com. That's sports, concerts, theater, you name it. They got it. No hidden fees, great prices with an additional 10% off by using that great promo code EOP10. Stuff your stockings at sherrystickets.com. Let's hit some of these up.
There's like 1,000 of them.
I know, guys. I'm trying to keep up with everybody. Rufus was saying not Quez's fault. Jalen underthrew him.
Again, on my show with Kyle, I said don't take advantage of the banged up Seattle secondary. Let's run those easy plays. And yes, the slants, the curls. It's really a shame they can't run those. How can an NFL offense operate when they can't run those basic plays? But they can't. But they are trying for the home run ball. It's like Bryce Harper was back there, and then it's swinging in the dirt. So
well, because that's what Quez does. Quez is a track star. Quez doesn't know how to run routes. I can run better routes than Quez Watkins. It's terrible.
He's got to run. You're going to try to throw it. He's going to try to run it down. That's his job.
And that's how you beat a guy who has speed but can't run a route.
Yep.
You just keep pace with him. Yeah.
And then you undercut him. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Giants could easily beat the Birds. Anybody could beat the Birds twice right now, man. I mean, there's teams that are kind of coming out of their shells. I mean, you look at the Chiefs. They're not the Chiefs that we saw last year. The Bills are kind of having a late resurgence. And listen, hopefully, fingers crossed that this is a bad, rough patch, but it does not smell like that. Like I'm not betting my house on it. That's for sure. Let's see. How many snaps did Carter have? I don't have those numbers in front of me yet. I'll have to get back to you on that, Mark. I'm not exactly sure how many snaps he had. Hurts cannot hit the deep balls. He has been doing well with deep balls, even earlier in the season. Again, it's like this head issue. Like he's trying to force square pegs round hole situation, trying to thread needles that aren't there, and trying, thinking that the football gods are going to bless him making these great plays. And kind of like Matt, you made the best reference that not unlike the NLCS Game 7, where you're trying to just bash your way out of the problems when the answer was right in front of you, when you could slice and dice your way through it. Yeah. And they refused to do that. And again, it looked like they're like, okay, we bought into it. That's what it felt like. Going in the beginning of this game, the first quarter, second quarter, that's what it felt like. This team bought into okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something to running the ball. Maybe there's something to throwing a little motion into it just to change it up so it looks different before these guys see it coming. Different things like that. Keep people honest. But then it's just like, boom, third quarter happens. We revert right back to where we were. It looked no different than the weeks before. So to say Hurts can't throw the deep ball, that's right now, no. He just doesn't have the confidence to do it. But he can. He physically can. He has the talent enough to do it, and it's been proven. This team has quit. Yeah, I don't even know.
I think who's that? Who's that guy? I can't see his name there. Who is that down there? Is that
Mike Lauro?
Do I know that guy? I think I do know that guy. Yeah, I know that guy.
Jeff said he would play Mariota last 3 games. Listen, again,
come on, man. I go with Tanner McKee if we're doing that.
Again, this team, they might seem like they have quit them, but they are not. Like I said, they're making the playoffs.
Yeah,
they have 3 much easier teams to play. I'm going to use that term. I'm not going to say easy teams. So. Yeah, I'm not. You put Mariota, and it's just like if we did it to Sean Desai. We said the same thing when Jalen Hurts took over for Carson Wentz.
Yep.
There's ramifications to that.
Yeah,
if they were out of
no sense at all.
If they were out of this, like if this was like, all right, if they lose here, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then fine. You want to preserve Jalen Hurts. You want to hurt him. Maybe let him go get some knee surgery weeks earlier if that's what he's going to need in the offseason, whatever it is. But no, they're not doing it. Yeah, that'd be a little ridiculous. Hurts is low budget Lamar Jackson.
All right, yeah, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, guys. Hurts is not a bad quarterback, but he's playing bad lately. Like, there's a difference between being a bad quarterback and playing bad.
Okay, hang on. Let's stop. So, are you going to, again, I remember earlier in the season when everybody would be like, well, you can't blow everybody out every game. We can't live off of 2022. We can't live off of that moment. It's not the way football is. And you're absolutely right. But I also heard Hurts in the MVP talk up to about a month ago, and now all of a sudden he's fallen off a bridge. So I don't. What is it? I
Hurts,
mean,
listen, a month ago, Hurts should have been in the MVP talk.
I don't know. He really hasn't played all that. The comp of 2022, and not the numbers he was putting up, but you mentioned the intangibles, the confidence, the leadership. He walked around with the swag. He hadn't done it all season, really. He's been really. And then you made the comment on one of these shows. What was it? The Buffalo Bill game, where he was sitting there very stoic on the sidelines, thinking, and he had that like a kind of withdrawn look. And you were like, oh, no, he wasn't showing no emotion. He just was going to get up off that bench and drive the team down for the game-winning touchdown. I saw a different look. I saw a despondent look, like, oh, God, here we go, and now I got to figure this out. I didn't see that. To me, it wasn't confidence. It was scared. And I've been seeing that look from him a lot this year. He's not the same person than he was in 2022. And I don't know if that's changed him as a quarterback, but he's lacking something. He doesn't have that X factor that he did last year.
Listen, again, what I just said, he's not a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback.
No, he's not a bad quarterback.
And yeah, he is. I think part of it's the frustration with, like what we have with was the offensive play calling, and I think part of it is when your defense struggles, no matter what you do, it sooner or later, like, man, what do I got to do? Like I leave the field where we're up, and then we go back on the field, we're down. Like I got 30 seconds to do something about it. So, it's like, but then again, in the last stretch of things, this last month, we'll call it the last 4 games, he everybody said, oh, they should have lost that Bills game. Yeah. I mean, they should have lost that Bills game. But if it wasn't for Jalen Hurts keeping them in there, putting him in the range for Jake Elliott's foot to hit, they would have lost. So yeah, he had that ability. So intangibles, tangibles, looking at that, yeah, I think he very much was in the MVP conversation up until about 3-4 weeks ago when it starts to creep in his head. And listen, we see it on Twitter, we see it on social media, we see it on these shows, we see how people go, we see how vicious people can be directly to you. You got to be able to shut that out, but maybe he's having a hard time shutting all this stuff out. Maybe there's, like I said, maybe there's more to his knee. Yeah, they're going to bake in, like Rufus is saying here, Nick has Nick lost the team is a question we asked earlier. Maybe there is a little bit of an issue.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a big
lost the locker room for sure in some ways. I can't say for sure, but everything's pointing that way.
Yeah.
And then Jalen has a built-in excuse of being sick. I mean, listen, the man was sick, very sick, to the point that they let him travel by himself. They probably weren't even sure if he had COVID or not.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had like a flu-like virus, and I'll tell you, I just had one. I just got over one about a week ago where I felt like it was attacking my muscles, and I could not imagine taking out the trash, let alone playing as an NFL quarterback. So I mean, power to him. He was able to keep it together that much, but. Is at one point do you have to make the decision for Jalen and say, Jalen, just let Mariota play?
I'd much rather have, and I'll answer Rufus's question here. I'd much rather have a quarterback who's a gamer, who's going to give it his all, who's going to go to the end, than a guy that schedules arthroscopic knee surgery on a Wednesday before a Monday Night Football game. All right.
Yeah. Well, my question to that was did he plan this, or was this a reason he was struggling and they said, listen, man, I can't. I'm not saying this is what it is. I'm asking the question.
It seems very coincidental, though.
Listen, I'm on the conspiracy float with you, Matty B. It's just all very, like, you're gonna let one coach define what you're gonna do for a team, but I'm hoping that's not the situation. But the convenience factor of the situation makes it hard. I had them losing 20-13, exceeded my expectations. Well, I'm glad they exceeded your expectations, Steven. I blame Brian Johnson. I mean, yeah, you can blame him all you want, but he don't play on the field. Hurts didn't put Seattle away. Defense did play better. Oh, Hurts is sick. That's this week's excuse. This is not the same team as last year. Early exit this year, folks. Very much possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. We'll find out, but everything's pointing in the direction that this team will not last long in the playoffs, especially if everything continues the way it's going. I mean, they may not last long this regular season. They might fall back down to a 6 or 7 seed very easily if everything plays out this way. But despite it all, you can't give up or you lose your fan cards. Don't go blaming the refs. That's the Cowboys and Niners fan stuff, Steven. I agree with you.
Well,
Nobody's
so
here
Stephen,
blaming
hang
the refs.
on. I want to address that. What's he mean give up? Uh, be critical? Is that giving up? Say that something's
No,
not right?
I don't think he's talking about being critical. Like, listen, if you go through some of these comments here, people say, I'm done.
Oh, yeah.
And listen, people are mad and they're upset, and that's rightfully so. As
Absolutely.
rightfully so, they should be mad.
But you're right.
Yeah, but he's like, you don't give up on your team. I like Matt Patricia, says Angry Ant.
I
But
actually like him
again,
too.
I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. Matt Patricia to me, is like what an offensive coordinator to Andy Reid, who's calling the plays, who's the one making he's a defensive minded coach, Bill Belichick. He went to Detroit, fell flat on his face, made some stupid calls, stupid mistakes, went back to New England, didn't look much better. He just, well, time will tell. I could be dead wrong about him. Maybe he's one of those guys that are never going to be a good head coach, but they're a really good coordinator. But they made some changes that need to be made, and it worked for a little bit, but then they fell back into it. So is that his fault, or is that the players' fault? Is that his fault for not changing the scheme?
Well, no, yeah. I mean, he can't make him more
adjusting?
talented. Yeah. Listen, he did adjust a little bit, and I'm sure Shane Happ will break it down completely for everybody this week about what changes that he made.
I want to see his all 22.
But he can't make a player play. He can't make a player more talented. I mean, it's not a good defense. It never was. And they did hold Drew Lock. that thing wrap around your head again. Drew Lock in check most of the game, but it's to me it's more driven by the talent. It's more driven by the situation that your fraud of a GM has put this team in right now. And you can call me all you want, and you can say what you want about me, but the reality is this team is right now showing its true colors, and it's not good.
This is embarrassing loss. Eagles need better offensive and defensive coordinators. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I'm not going to even fight that. At this rate, we're going to lose the next few games because we can't make tackles, and it always seem to beat ourselves. Here's a bit of a shine light. Ringo played a solid game.
He did.
Brown had angles to work on. Yeah, like Sidney Brown, again, there's times he looked good, and there was times he bit hard.
Yep.
There was one time where he didn't tackle, was it Walker, I think? Yeah. That didn't sit well with me. Start talking about the quarterback. He's a problem. Stop with the defense. We haven't scored 20 points in 4 games. Listen, that was my thing. Is like, and we ran on our YouTube page. We ran a poll. Who do you blame more? Where's the problem line more? Was it Sean Desai or was it Brian Johnson? And before the Sean Desai situation came down, 3,000 votes came in saying Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
But again, is it the play calling or is it the execution? We could have had Jefferson, Metcalf, and Adams.
That's a good point.
I don't think everything would have fallen in the way.
How would you like? What happens tomorrow if Howie makes an announcement that Frank Reich is taking over as offensive coordinator?
What makes you think Frank Reich right now would save anything? I mean, he couldn't hack it in Indianapolis, which I'll give him a little something because that he's a wackadoo. Their owner. But in Carolina's isn't much better. But I mean, guy didn't get a full year with a bad team.
No.
So it's hard to say with that one. Did the Eagles head coach take the blame this game? You have to take the blame.
Take the blame every game. Win or lose.
You got to take the good with the bad. I mean, I mean, in the end all be all, no matter who makes the mistakes, your name's the name. You're the name on it. You're the one signing off on it. The moment you sign off on this guy being your offensive coordinator and going by his game plan, it's on you. I mean, Casey Yang saying, why bomb it to AJ? You had 2 timeouts left and only 15 yards for Elliott to tie it up. That was one big question we had in the beginning. It was an unnecessary home run swing. It really was. He said, Brian Johnson, first-year experiment like the Cy one is done. He doesn't get play calling right. up by 4, nothing but pass. What was he thinking? Another good point. Like they could have controlled the ball by running that ball, or controlled the clock by controlling the ball a little more, and it would give the Seattle less than, they had less than 2 minutes to run that drive, and if they had a minute, things are probably completely different at that point. You put a lot of pressure on Drew Lock. Mark's back. When the game was on the line, the Seahawks beat Bradbury and Brown, and the Eagles went to Quez Watkins. Enough said. Good point. Nathaniel saying first and foremost, the interception was crap. That was a hold the entire time. Huge jersey grab, nothing but whatever. No call when then AJ gets pie on the second interception and gets clear as day. He didn't get both feet. The officiating, not just for the Eagles game, but the game has been trashed. The NFL needs the high. All right, man. Guys, learn to use a period when you write long ones, please. It's hard to read them. Brian calls wide receiver screens like they've been working for us all year. Stop drives called. Yeah, that I agree with. Bad day for Philadelphia. Yeah. Wait, was it a bad day all around? Or is it just a bad day?
It was raining. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, do you know why? That's right. I forgot. The Sixers lost.
That's right. They lost to the Bulls. Yeah. Yep.
Joey Snitch, you shouldn't have the score a lot when Drew Lock is your quarterback. Agreed, but listen, fine. You're not going to score a lot. It's your offense. We expect the offense to be down a little bit when you have your quarterback, fighting a flu-like virus. But so I'm not putting a lot on him. But the man's been struggling before the sickness. Let's also put that out there. Offense needed to win this game. They didn't. Never expected them to. It was a bad spot. Optics sucked. Team loss. Shit happens. It's a tight league. Well, let's talk about the other the call on Jason Kelce. That ticky-tack call. I mean, they're not going to ban the tush push, but they're going to make it sure as hell hard to get it off the ground. That's what it smells like they're trying to do. I'm not blaming the refs. I'm blaming the league on that one. That was I didn't see much of anything on that one.
Neither did I. But then again, I also didn't see much on the Noah Fant false start when he peeked up to look at the ball and they called a false start.
Oh, that was ticky tack too. I don't know. I was still watching that, wondering what happened. I couldn't wrap my brain around that one. I'm going to go both ways with it. If I think we got away with one, I'll be the first one to tell you, oh, we got away with one.
No, you're right. You're right.
But that was ticky tack. But when it came down to it, that was the difference between 4 more points too.
Yeah.
Time to get rid of Brian Johnson. Terry saying never quitting on Hurts. He got us to 10-4. I still believe. Let's just win the next 3 games and gain some momentum going into the playoffs. Hey, listen, man, Teddy, it's good to see somebody still has some confidence. Again, I'm not quitting on Hurts either. I want to make that abundantly clear. I'm just pointing out the fact Hurts has been struggling a lot over the last few weeks, and it shows. And is it he's not on the same page with his coordinator or his coach Sirianni or some of his teammates, or like we said, me and Matt, like, we're not trying to be conspiracy theorists, but is there more going on behind the scenes than we know? Obviously there always is because we're not in the locker room, but is there more going on that's got this team out of sorts? Because for what Matty points out, some giant glaring holes in our team, there's also some really, really good talent on this team especially offense to struggle as bad as it has. That's why I am blaming Brian Johnson a little bit, because this team has just been struggling. Again, going back to the last play of the game, was Jalen forcing something that he didn't have to, or was that Brian Johnson's call? I think it hurts. I think that was a Hurts mistake.
Yep, so do I.
You think the players are sick of Hurts being pampered?
How is he being pampered? I don't understand what that.
I would need a little bit more explanation on your terminology of pampering. Brown seems too short-limbed to be an NFL safety. We're saying it's short arms and legs. Like, is that, we're gonna get a measurement in here.
Like dinosaur arms? Is that
the NFL position is nickel cornerback. Ringo is the opposite. He could be a safety. we'll see. Bradbury, Watkins. I don't know. Guys, emojis don't show up on this thing, so you're gonna have if you're gonna use emojis just to talk, we're gonna get past it. Eagles led all game.
It was this emoji, the person with his hand, their hand.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't see it on this end. Yeah. Well, I mean, Bradbury, especially, man, like talk about a guy fell way off a cliff. I mean, I'm not sitting there saying he was a world beater last year, but he was not this bad last year. And maybe it was the talent he went up against. Maybe because that defense put so much pressure up front, it made him look better. I don't know. But talk about falling off a cliff. Why force the ball there? Fire Brian Johnson, and Jalen's playing like poop. Yes. There's no resolution or identity here right now. I can't tell you who this team is. I don't think they can, Steven.
And that's a problem at week 15 when you cannot identify your team in week 15.
Well, like I said earlier, like the Niners had a 3-week lull, if you want to call it, where they seemed lost and they had injuries they were dealing with and so on and so forth. It's just happening this late in the year is really disheartening. And then on top of it, the way everything went down this weekend, like I said, like the change, like Sean Desai thing just comes out on a Sunday afternoon while the team's just about to get on a plane and be not available for conversation for the next 6 hours on a plane. Just too convenient for my flavor. I'll never understand the Hurts unconditional love. People blaming Quez when Hurts threw a bad throw. Listen, people don't want him to be. Let's go back to that for a second. Rufus, people don't want him to be wrong. And listen, he's a very good quarterback, and he's our franchise quarterback, and I think he's going to have a long career outside, sans any major injuries or anything. This is not this great year. Is the knee thing a bigger lingering problem? Those things we'll find out. It was a bad throw. Again, was he not strong enough to make the throw tonight? Did he not have the oomph behind that he would normally, or the accuracy that he would normally have behind that throw? Should they even let him be throwing balls that long when he's as sick as they say he is? That's kind of the questions I'm having there.
Didn't we just have these conversations, but you insert Wentz's name where Hurts's name is now? Didn't we just go through this a couple of years ago? And that's a concerning point as well, too. So I guess that conversation's for another day. But
to me, that's a little different. And
how's it different? He had an MVP season in 2017, then he fell off a cliff. Hurts has got an MVP season in 2022, and here we are now. Now it's a little bit more trending in the right way than it is the wrong way. Of course, the book is still out on Hurts, and I'm not saying he's going to end up like Wentz. But once again, we gave a quarterback a huge contract. Did we do it, or did we do it too early? Did we break the bank just like we did with Wentz? I'm just saying. I don't know. You can bring that up if you want at this point.
I can see some of the comparisons, but where I would push back on that is that was the mental fortitude of Carson Wentz in the long run. It's one thing to having called a sophomore slump with his new contract. How many times we see quarterbacks get these contracts and kind of the year they make the sign, things falling off. Is his knee injury an issue? Is him and the offensive coordinator not driving all at the same time? I mean, is it if you want to look at the other side of saying the glass is half full, for the fact that they were 10-1 and still 10-4 at this point in the year, despite all those facts, play a little bit into the testament and the fortitude of a guy like Jalen Hurts. So I can see where you're saying there's some comparison. But there's also Wentz fell off a cliff.
His fall was a little bit more. It wasn't as we can look back on it and say you fell off a cliff, but it was a gradual fall. It really was, and I remember it very well. So, please don't take this the wrong way. I am not comparing Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts as even anywhere near each other. It's two totally different quarterbacks, two totally different people. I'm just saying. It's seeming a little coincidental now that we're having the same conversations we used to have about Carson Wentz, and we also have the same situation now we do have with Jalen Hurts.
We're going to have these conversations with any quarterback when they struggle. Like, that's my thing is we are reacting to everything in the real time, and this is how we feel. And listen, let's play devil's advocate again. Say they come out and they play the Giants twice and the Cardinals twice, and say they blow them out. Say they make some, against inferior teams. They beat them by 2 score every time. 3 weeks from now, we're almost like this never happened. Like, we are reactionary. That's how we are. Philly fans react to everything as it is. But to sit there and say Hurts is a bad quarterback. No.
No,
Say
no.
he had a terrible play. Joey George right here. He said it himself. Horrible coaching and terrible QB play tonight. I agree with you. Horrible coaching, maybe more than just tonight, but in certain aspects. Again, that's where this is the tough part for Nick Sirianni. Here's the adversity. Like, that's the thing is these guys haven't had a lot of adversity in their short career together with coaching quarterback. Here's the adversity who comes in. Can they pull Brian Johnson? He's a family friend. Like, he's not just a guy. He's a guy who's known him for years. Like, to pull that cord or tear that Band-Aid off or whatever term you want to use, that might make things more difficult. But that's where Nick Sirianni has to be like, I'm the head coach. This is a business, man. This is a business. And I got to say, no, we can't continue to do this. Brian, but also at the same time, what precedent if you fire both your coaches in 1 year, offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, what precedent does that set? Like, by doing what you did to Sean Desai, you kind of hog tie yourself a little bit by pulling any triggers on Brian Johnson at this point, Matty B?
Oh, this is a huge disaster for Howie Roseman, right? Howie hires the coordinators too, right? It's his team too, right? I mean, he does all that, right?
Well, it depends. I mean,
this is a huge embarrassment. It's huge.
Yeah,
it's a crack in the foundation too for that fraud. All right, it is. And you know what? You got to cut the cure. So let it go down in flames. I'm going to ride with it, and then I'll be there when it rises from the ashes. But this is huge. And then, as you mentioned, what now? What now with Matt Patricia going forward, starting tomorrow?
I want to say they really need to they're going to need to make an announcement sometime tomorrow.
Is he going to walk it back? Is Sean Desai going to show back on the sideline, or is this it? I mean,
I think you can. I don't think. How do you at this point? Like, listen, we didn't have enough faith for you against Seattle, but everybody else we're cool with. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, at what point do you? I don't think you can walk this back. I think he plays out in whatever position they put him. And maybe they do this because they don't want to have to fire him and lose a ton of money on the process. They probably put him in a position. They demote him. Maybe he can go get a job somewhere else, and the money comes off the books. I don't know what it is.
But Eagle fans are going to demand their ounce of flesh. They're going to demand it at the end of the season if things don't work out. They're going to demand somebody
reading these comments. There's more than an ounce coming, and they want it now. I don't know if they're going to wait for the end of the season.
But if they're not going to pull the trigger on Sirianni and Roseman, then they're going to have to pull the trigger on the coordinators. They're going to have to give the fans something. They're going to have to stay face.
Listen, the scapegoats are going to be the scapegoats, and it's always going to be the offensive defensive coordinator, unless they're just fed up with. But again, a guy who's gone to the playoffs 3 years in a row in his first 3 years as a head coach, I find it very hard to believe that they would fire Nick Sirianni. So no, it's going to be the coordinators. They're going to start fresh and try to find somebody else. Again, was it Howie Roseman or did he say you get to pick your coordinators? And they let him go. I don't know.
Are you serious? Are we really going to say that? I mean, come on, Al.
I'm not in that room. Are you in the room? I'm not in the room. I don't know.
Come on, man. You know who hired these coordinators. Come on.
We have no fourth pass catcher to get open. I mean, Julio Jones is like
he had a catch
slightly. Yeah, he had one catch tonight, and then it goes away. Like, I don't understand. I don't know. The team has lost their identity. Yes.
They never had an identity. Well, they couldn't lose one. They never had one.
Yes, heads will roll. They have to. No Howie, but Nick could be. I don't think Nick is. I really that would be a shock to me. More shocking than how this whole Sean Desai thing went down. They fired Super Bowl winning Doug. Yeah, but they didn't do it the next year either. They didn't do it.
Yeah.
He was a few years down, and I think he pushed back. I think Nick Sirianni is not going to push back like Doug did. And maybe because
which is a whole other can of issues that we have a pansy-ass coach. I mean, come on, man.
Is Nick the new Marvin Lewis?
That's an insult to Marvin Lewis.
Yeah. They won against the Chiefs, and they checked out for the season. I don't agree with that either.
Nah.
You could say that with the Bills. Like,
yeah,
I'm not criticizing the first play called. Hurts for 12 yards. Hurts moved fine all game. Throwing to covered receivers when receivers underneath are open. I agree. I said this the other day on last Wednesday. I said it seems like he's going to force it to Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown every time. And like I said, then why would you worry about covering a Quez, a Julio, a Zacchaeus? because it doesn't seem like they're going to throw it 20 times and 18 times it's going to go to their boys. I mean, even DeAndre Swift was second and 5, and you're throwing a 25-yard pass at DeAndre Swift. What was that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get that.
Get
NFC least regressing to the mean. Kelsey deserved better. He really should have retired at the end of last year.
And that's another issue, that offensive line. So Kelsey probably more than likely will step away this year, right? At the end of the year. And what's Lane Johnson do? Did they beg him not to retire at the same time? They please stay one more year at least. So
I think he finishes out his current contract. He pretty much said he was going to do that.
Okay. So we just have to maybe replace Kelsey.
So Kelsey, if things were working, I mean, it would be Kelsey out, Juergens over to center, and then you would slide in Tyler Steen to where Juergens is. That's what I would imagine is if everything else stayed the same.
Right.
Anthony's saying stop with the excuses of the gauntlet, playing the Niners of Dallas, now Seattle, but the Eagles should come out every game playing on all cylinders, and Hurts should be more of a leader than he shows.
What's the excuses of the gauntlet? What are you talking about? It was a pretty mean stretch of games, 6 straight games against some really good opponents. I mean, there's no excuses there. I don't understand that.
I saw NFL or some NFL insider. They tweeted out like that as of, I think it was right before the beginning of the Dallas game, that based on the strength of the team and all their schedules, like that 6-game stretch is like the hardest 6-game stretch in like the NFL in the last decade.
Yeah, that was rough.
Like, it's not an excuse. But I agree with Anthony that they should be coming out with more oomph. Like I can understand saying like they look like fourth quarter they're sluggish, like especially that Niners, Dallas, Bills stretch, because there's a lot of hard hitting teams in a short amount of time. But it's not an excuse. It's true. Trade everyone. Here we go.
The only person I really heard give that as an excuse, and it was Mike Laro, but he did it on the guise of the rest factor. The teams were getting 10 days rest to come in to play the Eagles, and the Eagles were just going back to back to back. I mean, he didn't really complain about the schedule, but he kind of complained about the timing. You can't control the schedule. And what do they say? You want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So no one's complaining about that. It's just that, I mean, it's just a tough stretch to ask anybody to go through. That's all.
Cunningham, Maddox, Slay healthy would be a good start. Listen again, if his knee is really that bad to have surgery, and Maddox staying healthy. Listen, if Maddox was healthy, this secondary, I'm not saying it's great in any which way, but is moderately improved. Right, makes a marked improvement, I would say.
But he can never stay healthy, so there's an issue with as the player.
You're absolutely correct on that. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. But if everything was Cunningham, Maddox, and Slay all 100% healthy, this
really Slay hasn't lost a half a step.
Well, we're saying if he was healthy, like maybe that's why he's having his knee surgery to get that step back. I don't know.
Hope he shuts down his podcast. Maybe he takes a break from that for a while too.
Yeah, right. Well, that's my other thing, man. A lot of these. Maybe I'm just
why is he allowed to do that? Why is he not getting fined?
It's not just him; it's all of them.
Right? It's Kelsey too. It's Kelsey too.
I mean, Kelsey's made the biggest sports podcast in the world with him and his brother. But they all have it. All the bands. But Pat Bev has one. They all have one. It doesn't matter. Like all these guys have one, and they have a built-in audience because they big social media followings and all this. But yeah, like it makes you wonder, like.
Back in the day, that never would have been able to be the thing. Back in the day, they weren't even allowed to listen to sports radio back in the day, let alone have their own medium platform to broadcast. I mean, that's just something that coaches didn't allow, and players. I don't think players would want to do that.
Oh no! Could you imagine, like, hey, a player going, Brian Dawkins going, hey guys, I'm gonna start a podcast.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, like we're gonna see, like everybody's gonna be like, no.
And then Brian Dawkins sitting on that podcast blaming everybody but him. I mean, it wouldn't be. First of all, he would never do something like that. But those players it's not a good look. To me, it's not a good look. And as a coach, I would be pretty pissed off about it. I really would.
Angry Ant saying also to when there's too many egos on the team and everyone is getting sick of each other, even the coaches. Is that part of the problem? I don't know, and I'm not. Are you in the locker room? Because I wonder if there's some it looks like there is, but where is it? We don't know. Like, is it people don't believe in Sirianni's rah-rah attitude anymore? Are they mad because they won't make a change in Sean or Brian Johnson? I don't know. I don't know where the disconnect is.
So
But
Sirianni hasn't had to answer questions about Sean Desai yet, right? Tonight would be the first time if they ask him that. He hasn't had to answer any questions. So the last time he talked
I
to the
mean, they might
media,
have had some pregame interviews, but as far as I know, no, not that I
because
know.
on Tuesday last week, he said there was going to be no changes to the coaching staff, none. And then this happens. So no one's had a crack at that yet. No one's had
On
an
Tuesday,
opportunity
there
to ask him
wasn't.
yet.
Maybe it happened on Wednesday.
But I'm
On
saying no one's
Tuesday,
had an
yeah.
opportunity to talk to him about it yet. So that's
No,
going to add.
they literally announced it as the Eagles were
Yeah.
flight was taking off.
So don't tell me there was something. It's all worked out. There's no chance to any of that.
Listen, did you expect to be as busy as we were yesterday? And,
No.
Looking up stuff, trying to find out things. Like, no.
Well, then the news broke right after you guys went off the air, wasn't it? Right after that, the PM and the AM show went off the air. Then the news break right after that.
Not long after, within an hour or so.
It's
Yeah.
a shame you guys couldn't have been on when it broke.
Yeah. Cox and Graham have been the best linemen this team have had all season. Carter is amazing. Reddick is awesome. Davis is a 2-down player, gives us more than Linval Joseph did last year.
What is up with Jordan Davis? I mean, come on. He doesn't seem to have the staying power right now. It's the second year in a row he's kind of disappeared in the second half of the season.
I mean, is it the I mean, I know it's the second year, but maybe he's that little college slump that these guys got, not used to going deep into the year.
When can we stop saying that? Year 10? I mean, come on.
I know. I'm just saying, like Carter, I can see it with maybe on the second year. But yeah, I mean, you would think by now he would get out of it. But I mean, are they just going around? Are they scheming around him? And that's what a good coordinator will do.
Right.
Well, if you got big monsters like Davis and Carter in the middle there, well, we're not going in the middle.
We're going to attack the edges, or we're going to attack the middle of the field away from them.
You're attack the edges. We're going to go after the linebackers.
Yep.
And that's what they did. Need better offensive and defensive coordinators. Thank you.
Well, there's something that hasn't been brought up yet.
Isaac saying Hurts' arm is, I guess, thumbs down, 2 thumbs down. I'm not gonna, tonight, maybe, but I'm not going to agree with that. Howie Roseman is the new HC, and all Howie is going to say is if you don't play good, you're getting released and traded. Many Philly fans can't handle the peaks and valleys concepts. No, that's true. Many fans, not just Philly fans, but fans in general. What Nick Foles and Frank? What's Nick Foles and Frank Reich's phone number? Geez, Hurts has not played well all season. Take away the rushing TDs, which is basically all tush pushes. His numbers are mediocre, below mediocre this year. Josh was saying. I don't know. His numbers haven't been great.
No,
again,
it's not been the same.
Looking this season, no, it hasn't been the same. But is that because they, people have tape on them and they are not adjusting to it? Like that's it.
So is he the wrong guy for this job? Do we get the wrong guy again?
No, I don't think so. No, I you would have to show me more than that. Slay surgery is because of wear and tear. Well, I get that, Joey, but it's on his timing, Joey Marks. It's the timing.
Yeah.
Let's see if he doesn't do his podcast for a few weeks while he's on the mend. Joey Sheeran say, did Nick lose the team? Are you kidding me? Check the resume already. The play isn't good right now. The OC isn't that bad. The defense didn't play that bad. It's a shitty ending.
I'm going to tell you what, man. Listen, not for nothing, man, but take off the damn sunglasses. Take off the green sunglasses. I don't even know how to respond to that. I really don't. Yeah, it's the proof is in front of you. There's cracks all over the place. There's locker room leaks. You got a head coach that goes out in front of the media, says, I'm not making any changes with the damn coaching staff. And then 3 days later, they make a change with the coaching staff. Come on, Joe. Listen, it's okay to be critical of this team. It's okay. No one's going to come take you away in the middle of the night and put you in a re-education camp. It's okay to be critical.
Listen, he said, did Nick lose? I'm not saying Nick lost this team totally, but there is definitely cracks. There's cracks in the armor. And where is it coming from? And was Nick overrode too with this size situation? Maybe Nick had no intentions of doing it at all, but they said no, we're going to do this. We need to do this. Maybe Howie or Jeff or both said, no, you need to make a change somewhere. We can't keep playing like this. The offense is not cooking like it has been, and the defense is hurting us. So we got to make a change somewhere. We can't make a change in both places because that might not be, that'd be too much at one time. But I'm saying, like, to say he totally lost the locker room, I can't say that, but there is definitely some upheaval somewhere. I can't just go with the OCs isn't that bad. I'm sorry, man. I disagree with that. The play again, unless it's not his play calling and they're checking it down to a different, and they're not going with the original reads a lot. But I said, Joey talked about it last Wednesday. It's been super vanilla and very obvious. Nick has joined Andy and Dick as the only Eagles coaches to make the playoffs 3 of their first seasons they see. I mean, that's some of the saving graces there. That's why I don't think you should fire Nick Sirianni. I don't think that at all. If anybody thinks Nick Sirianni should go right now, I think you're being overreactive at this point. Yeah, Matty B. Exactly.
So he's also going to join Andy and Dick as never winning a Super Bowl for the Eagles too. Let's make sure we get him in that category too, because right now,
again, that's an overreaction to say that. Like, maybe it won't be this year, but who says it won't be? How many coaches win Super Bowls in their first couple of years? I mean, it was Doug Peterson, and I mean, it usually takes a good 4 or 5 years for a coach to get things under their belt. So I can't sit there and go because of 3 years. They made it there once, lost it. And they're struggling at the end of this season, but they're still 10-4. To sit there and say, "Oh, he's never going to win it." That's an overreaction at its best. Hey Matt, you're borderline to getting your Eagles card revoked.
Yeah, come on, take it, big boy. I'm right here.
Quez Watkins is Eagles Cork Moss. I like that, Andy. That was a good one. Eagles are frauds. Laugh out loud. Anthony, Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor have in common they both don't like the route. They don't like to run. It's Brian Johnson plays like he's having some random fart contest. Loud crackle, run with a wide receiver hitch screen, wet fart, run the ball. Always leading the Steelers, some good ones. Eagles are trash. It's like somebody going to be outside the NovaCare Center tomorrow with trash cans with the word Eagles on the side of it.
Oh yeah, what's going to be tomorrow? Because that's right. Yeah,
can I point this out? The first guys, I liked them. They were funny.
Yeah, now
they were funny. Run the ball. The guy with the trash cans. Now that was A, you were trying to copy off somebody else's stunt they just pulled last week, and B, it was pathetic spot. I'm just going. I never got to actually say that out loud on the mic, but there you go. It was stupid. Okay,
it was very stupid.
What happened to Byard at the end of the game? I don't know. What happened to most of these guys at the end of the game? Gilbert Morales, I've been telling people for the last 5 weeks the Eagles were big frauds. I knew the Seahawks would show them to be more fraudulent. Gilbert Morales, Matty B's burner account. The refs aren't helping the Eagles anymore. They're going to keep losing. They weren't helping us. Listen, this whole thing, ref helping, not helping. Come on, man. Yeah, after I saw that, I figured that one out. Can't you have blurred vision if you have high enough fever? Joey, yeah, I mean, I questioned that in the beginning. If he had, like, the Quez Watkins throw, if he did the underthrow because he didn't have the oomph to put into it, or the not having the accuracy, like there wasn't even accuracy, like not being able to place the ball like he normally can. I mean, the sickness definitely played, but then you should not have been putting him in the situations to make plays like that unless they were all supposed to be decoys and he didn't want them to be decoys. I don't know. Again, was it Brian Johnson or was it Jalen Hurts? Like the Eagles cheated for 4 games when the officials helped them. The Eagles are fraudulent without the refs' help. All right, Gilbert. Now we're getting a little crazy here. I think the Eagles will lose 1 game to the Giants. It's only possible. On the road, the game wasn't that bad. Should have won. However, no loser opinion needed to getting rid of the GM or QB. Some things about offense improved today. Some things improved defensively. Final results not there, but hopefully some improvement in play and health will continue. It's a good way to look at it, Steven. That's all we can hope for at this point. Let's see. However, the play where Leonard and Morrow hit the same gap is just an example of continuity and talent not intersecting at all. Just hope that there aren't too many cooks in the kitchen. Well, did they do that when they did the Desai situation? I mean, You didn't again. They didn't strip him of his defensive coordinator. They put like I thought at first when I first read the report, like they said it, they read as Sean Desai was going to sit up in the booth. So I'm like, okay, maybe they're doing a Quinn situation. Like they're going to make him maybe to be able to get a different look. But then they, as they said, Matt Patricia, that just didn't make sense to me. That's really where it didn't make sense. I would say to Desai, thank you for your service, but here's some coupons for McDonald's. People talking shit about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts right now should be shut down. I mean, listen, being critical is one thing, Joe, but it's saying like to be firing them, yeah, that I do not agree with. Does Howie need his old bouncer back, Joe Douglas? Which Joe done with the Jets? We lost our identity this year when they tried to turn this team into a pass first, and when we should be run first. Big facts. I don't know if he's saying that to the Steven comment. I would like to see Jason Kelsey before he retires play with his brother. No,
that's not something I'm looking forward to.
Jim Washburn used to clown Juan Castillo. Wonder if Byard was playing clowning Desai. Jalen Carter has that dog in him. Yeah,
he's a work in progress, but he's going to be something special. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, listen, I think he's possibly defensive rookie of the year.
Oh, 5 sacks, right? He's got 5. He only had 1 tackle tonight, and that was the sack.
Yeah, I mean, if he continues to kind of fall off a little bit at the end of the season, maybe he wouldn't have that. But first 10 to 11 games, he definitely had that ability to be there.
Oh, he's a hit. He was a hit. I'll give Howie credit on that.
For those, hey, listen, that's one of those things, man. Like, he was there. They moved up. They got right in front of him.
Yeah.
I think, it's a good move there. For those who are just joining us, if you didn't know, the Eagles lost 2017. Let's go over a couple of these stats before we get going because we've been here long enough. Eagles total yards are 321 to the Seahawks 298. Seahawks outpassed the Eagles 197 to 143. We outrushed them 178 to 101. And yards per play, they were 5.1 to our 4.7. Third down efficiency was a little better on both sides of the ball. I mean, 9 for 16, the Eagles, and 6 for 14. But it's just when it counts the most. When in tight games like that, it doesn't take much to turn around. And like I said, we got a third down sack, something we didn't see much recently.
Yeah.
Time of possession, Eagles won again, almost 33 minutes to the 27 minutes. But again, it's the 2 interceptions that really are the standout here, guys. So just remind you guys
now for the season.
Yeah. If you feel scorned tonight, you feel like you were robbed, David R. Cherry's your man to call. You get hurt at work in a car accident, personal injury, criminal law, go to cherryinjurylaw.com or call Dave directly at 610-565-0300. Again, workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law, 610-565-0300. I'll answer the last couple of questions, and guys, we'll be out of here. Remind Howie Super Bowl champion 1, Matty B Super Bowl championship 0. I didn't know Matty, we had a chance to win a Super Bowl.
Well, I was going to take the Toronto Argonauts to the Grey Cup out there in the CFL, but they worked their way into the NFL. But it didn't really quite pan out for me there.
Didn't pan out.
Billy Marks got me there.
He got you. You know why Bradbury doesn't tackle or make an effort? Because he just got a manicure. All right, Ant. On that note, guys, we got plenty for you this week here at EOP, and I usually have it up and running. Somebody took all my stuff out, so I apologize, but here it is. Here is your lineup. Tomorrow we got the draft show, Kelly Greenhour, Birds of the Round Table, Chalk Talk, and of course Clear the Ice. Matty B, I believe you're on that one, right?
I am on that one.
For the Devils. And then Wednesday will be Philly Press Box Radio, myself, Joe, and Fred back for EOP Live, and as well as Get Processed, the Sixers post-game show, and much, much, much more, leading us all the way up to Christmas Eve. We'll have a schedule out for Christmas week for you guys as well of what's going on once we figure out what we're doing. But Matty, thank you for joining me tonight. The other guys, I don't know what happened to them.
Yeah, maybe I don't
know if Ryan drank a little extra because that game was hurting him. of Joe Wood got lost, but I appreciate you sitting in with me for this long hour and a half post-game show. Thank you everybody for commenting along. Hopefully, we can help you guys, step away from that ledge a little bit. But other than that, guys, thank you for joining us. And Matty B, I guess you won't have a Talking Philly Sports with Matty B until what, like New Year's?
So we're going to do the Birds Blast on Saturday.
Yes.
I'm probably going to turn that into a Talking Philly Sports with Matty B and just have Kyle on for a segment and then just run a whole show for Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, if we don't see you guys who comment along, hopefully you guys have a really good holiday. Hopefully we'll be seeing you a lot more over the week, talking about this terrible Eagles loss. Looking forward to the Giants, as well as the hot Flyers, the hot Sixers, except for tonight's loss, of course, the Bulls. And if Phillies make any moves further in the offseason, which it seems
what's going
likely
on with that, man? That's getting a little concerning too.
There's another conversation for another day. But other than that, thank you, Matty B. Guys, thank you for joining us for our post-game show. And we are out of here.